The Witcher 3 is an incredible game, but what I think makes it really special is the way that it tells this very complex, interwoven story without compromising the logic of its open world. This is not something you see super often because it's very difficult to do well. The more open a game is, the more choices the player has, and the harder it gets for writers and designers to maintain a consistent story. For example, if a game gives you 3 quests and lets you do them in any order, it also has to make sure that each quest is aware of the other 2, or else the game's logic might break. Characters you've already met might behave as though you haven't met them, someone might mention an event that hasn't happened yet. Things can get really complicated really fast. Some developers try to get around this limitation by chaining together these smaller open world areas where you can kind of explore a little bit and do side quests in any order you please, but you can't really get to a new area until you finish the story quests for the area that you're in. This is a perfectly valid way to structure the story of your game so that you won't have any weird logic problems, and there's a lot of games that do this that are wonderful narrative experiences, but a structure like that is not as open as you'd like for a large-scale open-world game. This brings us to The Witcher 3, which by contrast gives you a ton of control over how the story progresses. The game basically consists of 4 major quest lines, and while you have to complete the 4th one last, you can tackle the first 3 in whatever order you please. You can also move between the quest lines whenever you want, so you're not locked into completing one before tackling the other 2. I found that really impressive because these quest lines are very complex and feature their own branching paths and storylines. This creates tremendous potential for the logic breaks we discussed earlier, but you'll find almost none in The Witcher 3 because the game is really good at adjusting itself to what you've already done. Dialogue will change, characters might treat you differently depending on the choices you've made, and in some cases you'll experience entirely different quests and content because of the specific way that you chose to do things. I also found it really cool that the game doesn't tell you when it's making these adjustments to your story, or when something you've done will have consequences later on. This had a very profound impact on how I played the game, because I was never sure what would affect my story, so I treated everything as though it might, and that to me is a very powerful form of immersion. It really felt like I was inhabiting a world where my actions had consequences and I had to think carefully about everything I did, because anything could have an impact. Now I know I'm kind of late to the game here as far as Witcher 3 criticism goes, but I didn't finish it until recently and I was really impressed by my experience, so I wanted to make this video and share it with all of you. Hopefully you enjoyed it, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.